Hello, and welcome back to the How to Build a Team podcast with Pam and David. On this week's episode, we're actually going to be answering a user question. Somebody had emailed us in a question of how do you handle employees who are either too shy or scared because you are their manager? And it's actually an interesting thing. I've found being from North America, from Canada, people tend to be, especially in Canada, we're somewhat assertive, but we're very polite about how we do that. And I've actually noticed through the last couple of years that in dealing with a number of different people that I've met in the Philippines, that Filipinos tend to be a little more quieter, just in general, than typically people from North America. And every now and then we've run across the odd person who would kind of fall into that really super quiet or super shy kind of category. And it's actually a really great question to bring up because I've heard it in talking with other people who have outsourced where they've struggled to maintain a good rapport with their virtual assistant team because they're feeling they're not able to communicate freely. They think the other person's not inputting enough, they're afraid to talk or concerned about voicing their opinion because they're dealing with their boss. So it's my first bit of advice in that is just recognize that the person that you're working with just might naturally be shy or quiet, that it's not necessarily that they're afraid to talk or that, they're intimidated to talk, but they just might naturally be a quiet, more reserved person. And that's something that you have to be able to work and build trust with that person or with the team to let them know that it's okay for them to be naturally quiet or to be shy, but that there are times when they need to be a little more outgoing or a little more outspoken, perhaps is a better word, in the way that they communicate. And I've had employees in the past, physical employees in situations where they've been shy in dealing with management or supervisors and things like that. They're quite effective when they were dealing with their clients, dealing with the public, were able to project their voice and enunciate and deal with things very well. But anytime they got into a situation of having to talk to the supervisor or a manager, they were found out afterwards, after a lot of conversations, that they were always afraid that they were going to be in trouble. That anytime a manager or a supervisor called on them to have a one-on-one conversation, that they jumped to the conclusion that they had done something wrong, that there was going to be an issue.
Yeah, it's funny because when you are in an office environment, it's like, it's like automatic. You're going to think that if your boss calls you or calls your attention, it's like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Is there something wrong? Or will I get reprimanded? It's not always like that, but that was, the experience that you had and I had in the past. And I think one of the odd thing, or how should I put it? It's like, the client or the boss would be put in a situation of confusion, whether they're going to be under the impression of why is this particular team member not communicating well or not participating in the conversation or in the discussion. It is, I guess, more challenging when it comes to having a remote team member because you don't see the facial reaction. You don't meet the person on a regular basis compared to having somebody at an office. So it's like the boss or the client would think, did I communicate well? Did I say my instruction clearly enough for that person to understand, or was she or he confused, or did she understand, or something like that? Is that the reason why she's not speaking up? So going back to what you're saying, David, can you share with us and to our listener, how were you able to handle this? Because you were in an office environment. You had this corporate job environment in the past, and you were handling 50 plus employees as the manager. You've encountered this type of team members. How were you able to handle that type of team member who are shy and afraid to speak up, but that they have the potential, that they are smart, that they have these brilliant ideas? You just need to extract them, and how were you able to do that?
Yeah. There's not a single approach that works for everybody, but different things that I found that were successful is you have to build their trust is the big thing. And I know a lot of listeners are going to be saying like, no, I'm hiring them. They need to trust me, that it's just a built-in thing that because you're paying them that they have to trust you. And that doesn't work. Either in a physical or a virtual environment. You have to build up that rapport over time. And if you have an employee that you're concerned, you think that they're overly shy or overly reserved, you have to maybe put in a little bit more effort as their boss, as their supervisor, to foster an environment where they feel safe. That, if you have an issue with them, if there's a problem, that you're straight up and say, hey, we need to discuss something that happened. We need to discuss a challenge, so that it's clear going in that there's a problem that needs to be discussed. And if it's a situation where everything is good, be right up front. Have your praise right at the beginning of the conversation so that you can put them at ease, that they're like, okay, I'm not in trouble. And that's going to, bring their stress level down a little bit and help them to be able to communicate a little bit better. So, other things is encourage them over time to participate in conversations. If it's just you and the one freelancer, the one virtual assistant or graphic artist, whoever it is, it can be a little more challenging that, if only one of you are talking, it's not much of a conversation. But, even, through the last couple of years, when we have our town hall meetings here with Great Work Online, we'll have, 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 people on these video calls at a time. And we've had in the past employees who wouldn't say anything during those things. Everybody else is talking.
They're blending in. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we had to, I noticed it, you noticed it. And we would actually at points during the meeting is specifically gently call them out and just say, hey, Bob, what are your thoughts on this discussion, and make sure that they know that we want their input. We want them to be part of the team. They might feel shy because maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they feel that they're really inexperienced versus the other people that are in the conversation.
Yeah, intimidated by those other team members who have more years of experience in the field. Or it could be, it's something that, the client or the boss, they have this aura that is sometimes intimidating to your employees or to your remote team. But, I think what really matters is that you recognize these team members, and that you, like what you said, you have to that approach wherein you have that trust. You need to build that trust, and you have to maybe sound friendly, because I believe that you hired that person because you saw something good in that person, that person fits that position because he or she met your requirements. But of course, it's a different story when it comes to having a discussion and having a team with the rest of your team. I mean, having a meeting with the rest of your team. So yeah, with regard, it's kind of quite the same and somewhat different when it comes to having a physical team member or in an office environment, and with having a remote team. With what I noticed and what I did in the past, learning from all of these different types of freelancers, and I'm still doing that now, when we encounter those shy freelancers, is that during the town hall meeting, like what you said, David, I would sometimes call out, because when I see, we always do a video conference during the town hall meeting, because it's like, for me, it's more personal, and I would be able to kind of like know the person, even though we're miles apart or he is in the other part of the world. So it's really good to have a video call. So take advantage of the technology that we have now. So I would see that the person is nodding. Yeah. So he or she is agreeing to what everybody is saying, but he doesn't have the courage to speak up. So what I would do is call out and ask for, just not to single out and not obvious that we are, wanting him or her to participate in the discussion. So I would ask each and everyone, their opinion on, if I talk about what are we going to do with the social media stuff, or what are we going to do to help improve the system and the process for this particular client. So I'm going to ask, like several team members for their opinion, for their suggestions. And then, of course, I'm going to go to that shy person, and then he would or she would start talking and giving ideas, and you will know that he or she, that person, has a brilliant idea. So it's just really a matter of, communicating, I guess, is number one. And if that person, it takes a while to really extract those ideas from that person, and that person learn how to speak up. If during the video call or meeting with your team, and that person still doesn't really, contribute when or participate in the conversation, have that probably one-on-one chat and start asking question. Because I think, you tell me, David, if you agree, because I think having that one-on-one conversation with that shy person every now and then, it will build trust, and the person will know that, whatever he has in his mind, idea or suggestion or observation or whatever opinion he may have, that you value what he has to say or what she has to say.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you hired them for a reason. You hired them on purpose.
True.
It wasn't just because you hired them because they have experience in something or they have knowledge of something that you need, and remind them of that.
Yeah.
I've done that with physical employees, with virtual employees, where I've said, for a VA that I've worked with, I said, I work with you for a very specific reason. And I said, I trust you. I've seen the work that you do. You do good work. Just be confident in that you know what you know and that you're doing a good job. And their feedback, that their rapport is valuable to being able to move forward. And I guess maybe that brings, sort of to that next thing, is what happens if you can't get over that communication hump. And, it's nobody likes to fire an employee. But if you've made, as a manager, as a supervisor, you've made real steps to try and improve the communication situation, and it's just not happening, then you may have to look at severing that relationship with that person, terminating that position. It's, they can be the best in the world at what they do, but if they can't communicate with you, it doesn't matter. It's at the end of the day, you have to be able to communicate with them, to communicate what you want, and they need to be able to communicate back any questions that they have, or even just to give you a report or a follow-up of what they've done. If they can't effectively communicate that, then that relationship's just not going to work long term.
Yeah. With having a remote team, having a shy team member in your remote team, I think, the best thing is you're not really into how that person did the task from A to Z. What matters is the result. If that person is shy, and because that's his or her personality, then be it. As long as that person delivers on time, and that person understand the instruction, then I guess that's fine. But then again, like what you said, it's a different story if that person doesn't communicate well, doesn't participate in the discussion, and do the task wrong. Then that's a different story. That it's a different story.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my favorite quotes, and I'm going to completely botch it when I try and do this, and I think it was Steve Jobs, but it goes something to the effect of, hire smart people and let them tell you how to do their job.
Yeah.
It's
Steve Jobs.
I know very little about social media. So when I'm working with our social media strategist, or I'm working with my VA who's doing my social media, I don't tell them how to do it. I tell them what I want, what the result is that I want, what my thoughts or my vision are for it. And then I let them tell me how it's going to work. So it's, that's, goes back to that communication thing. If you're micromanaging people constantly, or trying to tell them how to do their job, they're going to be very reluctant to speak up, because they're afraid you're going to find fault if you're trying to control everything they do.
So I think the bottom line is, have an open communication, and you really have to have, and in that, having an open communication is having a regular meeting with your team,
Yeah.
because that's when you'll know who needs more attention and who needs less attention.
Yeah.
With us, the good thing about Great Work Online is that we have a project manager, and that project manager can communicate with that shy person and be able to, because I find it amazing, because there are team members who are kind of like intimidated to talk to me and speak up and tell them their ideas or their opinion. But when I go to my project manager and ask the project manager to talk to that shy person, he or she will be able to speak up and speak up his mind. And then the project manager will come back to me and say, hey, Sarah or Bob tells me that maybe we should do this, blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow, so she can speak. So I think that's another one good tip that we can give out to you guys. That's one of the advantages of having a project manager. You don't really have to deal with each of the team members, but of course, as the manager, as the owner, as the leader of your company, you really have to know and have that open communication with the rest of your team.
Yeah, absolutely. The onus is on you as the manager to open that gateway.
Right. I agree.
All right. Anything else to add this week, Pam? I think
No,
that's
I think that's it. We just wanted to answer that question, the email that we got from our listener, and I hope we were able to answer that question, and I hope we're able to help you in managing that shy team member in your company. So yeah, I think that's it for today.
okay.
If you find value in this episode, please don't forget to write us a comment, write us a review, like us on our page. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for Great Work Online, just one word. We are also on Instagram. We haven't really had put more content on YouTube, but we will be able to soon. But yeah, if you want some more updates on how to build a team, just go to our Facebook or on LinkedIn, find Pam Pormentilla or David Monteith, and on Instagram.
Right.
And of course, yeah, you can go and check us out on our website, greatworkonline.com.
Perfect.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.